Hello, I'm Karen Giannoni. We start this hour with breaking news on the Israel-Gaza war. A United Nations investigation team says Israel has committed genocide against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. The Independent International Commission of Inquiry was established by the UN Human Rights Council in May 2021 and was led by the former Human Rights Commissioner Navi Pillay, who led the tribunal on Rwanda's genocide. The inquiry concluded Israel has committed 4 of the 5 genocidal acts defined under international law. The intentional killing of a group, deliberately inflicting conditions designed to destroy it, causing it serious physical or mental harm, or preventing births. The report also concludes Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, President Isaac Herzog and former Defence Minister Yoav Gallant deliberately incited genocide. This is the first time a UN Commission of Inquiry has used the word genocide in relation to Gaza. The UN investigators also warned Israel's allies they must act to stop the killing or risk being complicit. Israel has already responded to the report. A Foreign Ministry spokesperson called it a fake report, saying it relies entirely on Hamas falsehoods laundered and repeated by others. These fabrications have already been thoroughly debunked, including in an independent, in-depth academic study by Besser or the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies, which refuted every single false claim regarding genocide. Besser is an Israeli think tank. The statement ends by saying Israel categorically rejects this distorted and false report and calls for the immediate abolition of this commission of inquiry. Well, the UN report comes as Israel heavily bombed Gaza City overnight, with Israel's Defence Minister Israel Katz saying Gaza is burning. We're getting unconfirmed reports from the US news site Axios and the Jerusalem Post that the military has now launched its ground offensive to occupy the entire city. Israeli strikes are also reported in central Gaza in the direction in which thousands of people are fleeing. Palestinian officials say there are rising numbers of deaths and injuries. The intensification began hours after Secretary of State Marco Rubio assured Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of unwavering US support during a trip to Jerusalem. Well, we'll be talking to our correspondents around the region. Let's discuss this more with our Geneva correspondent Imogen Folks, Yolan Nell, our Middle East correspondent, and Rushdie Abu Alouf, our Gaza correspondent. But to you, Imogen, first, just take us through the report's findings.
Well, what this report does is go over many reports of individual aspects of the conflict in Gaza that these 3 international lawyers led by Navi Pillay have already looked at since October the 7th. So they look at the attacks on children, they look at conditions in detention, they look at the destruction particularly of hospitals and places of education, and they look at the statements by Israeli leaders about their intentions, apparently, in Gaza. And they put that through a very forensic analysis. What is the legal definition of genocide? And they come, as you said in your introduction there, to the conclusion that 4 of the 5 criteria have been met, if you like. And that has to do with the intentional killing or destruction of a group, not the whole of the group, the Genocide Convention says in whole or in part, through measures such as the denial of food and water, the destruction of homes, the fact that people in Gaza cannot leave even though their homes are destroyed, they're being displaced from place to place. So those are the findings. Very legal. No one, I would say, disputes the right of Israel to defend itself against the kind of terrible terrorist attack that took place on October 7th, 2023. The conclusion of this report is that this is not self-defense. The conclusion is that this is actually genocide.
Imogen, for the moment, thank you. Imogen, you've been speaking to Navi Pillay, who led that investigation. And Imogen asked her how her team, which has already produced numerous reports outlining war crimes in Gaza, came to that specific conclusion of genocide.
It took 2 years to reach this conclusion. Our mandate requires us to share this information with judicial bodies. such as the ICC, such as states holding national prosecution. It's not only that, we would not put anything there that we are not satisfied with. It's easy to proclaim the outcome, genocide is happening. We went to the facts first. The facts must tell us that, yes, there's the intention. So we looked at statements made by the Israeli authorities indicating genocidal intent, and we looked at the pattern of conduct of Israeli authorities and Israeli security forces to show that genocidal intent was the only reasonable inference. That test, that it must be the only reasonable inference, is what was set by the ICJ in the Bosnia case. So the acts were killing and causing bodily harm and mental harm, destruction of cultural, religious, and educational structures and facilities, the siege, starvation, and the blocking of humanitarian aid, destruction of the healthcare system, sexual and gender-based violence, direct targeting of children. So all that's been covered. And that's when we conclude that it's genocide. And that's why we only produce this report now.
And that's Navi Pillay, who is heading that commission, produced this report. Let's talk to our Gaza correspondent, Rushdie Abu Alouf, who is in Istanbul. And Rushdie, this report comes as it appears that Israel is beginning a ground offensive in Gaza City.
Well, there is no sign of any tanks movement over up all night trying to get any information about the tanks are advancing more. I mean, it's just misleading what the people are saying, because Gaza City is already 60% of it is under occupation, and the tanks are working in 3 different axes in Gaza. If we see like a neighborhood called Sheikh Ridwan, it's one of the biggest neighborhoods. It's in the heart of Gaza City, where Israel is working in this neighborhood for a very long time, pushing all of the people inside the neighborhood to flee south, and some of them are flee to the west of Gaza. If we see the Israeli working in Zaytun, Zaytun is the second biggest neighborhood in Gaza, and the tanks are there working for almost a month and a half in this place. And the third axis is northwest coastal road, and they are pushing hard towards the only refugee camp in Gaza, Shati refugee camp. They have bombed the camp day and night, and they destroyed most of the building in the camp. So they are already occupying over 60% of the Gaza city, and there is a small tiny bit of land in the middle and in the west, where about maybe 700, 800,000 people are stuck in this area. They don't have money to pay for the displacement, which costs over £1,000 for a car to take you to the south, where many people want to leave what they describe as the hell in Gaza, but they don't have the money to do it. And there is only one road that allow you to flee south, which is the coastal road, and it's dumpy, dusty, small road, semi-destroyed, and take 10 hours. I spoke to a family yesterday. It cost them about £1,000, and it took 10 hours for them to move about 14 kilometers from Gaza to the middle. So it's a real hell in Gaza. This report is significant for the people of Gaza. It's significant. They have been talking for a very long time that what is going on in Gaza is a genocide. In the official level, the Palestinian Authority call it a genocide. Many of the Arab leaders and Muslim leaders call this a genocide. But what the people want in Gaza is this killing to be stopped.
And Rushdie, we know that Israel has comprehensively rejected this report, calling it a fake report. What is likely to be its effect?
Well, Israel rejected they are killing civilians. Israel rejected they have committed, famine in Gaza, where every day we used to see people dying from hunger every day. And until now, there is no food stability in Gaza. There are people still dying from hunger, and Israel denied it. The amount of kids and women killed in this war, the number of journalists killed in this war, is indication that Israel is committing genocide according to this report. This is very important for the people of Gaza. They appreciate it as they appreciate the report about famine. But what they want is that they want international pressure to stop what's going on in Gaza. Last night, in central Gaza, almost the heart of Gaza, there was 4 airstrikes, killing about 6 people overnight, and this daily killing every day, at least 100 people killed. Most of them are women and children. People believe that they they already punished Hamas for the 7th of October. They killed all of its leaders, whether they are military or political, even in Qatar. But what's going on is beyond 7th of October and the self-defense, as Israel all the time say.
Rushdie, thank you very much. Rushdie Abu Alouf, our Gaza reporter, who is currently in Istanbul reporting live. Now, in the last few minutes, the Israeli ambassador to the UN in Geneva has given this reaction to that UN report.
Israel categorically rejects the libelous rant published today by this Commission of Inquiry. It spreads the malicious genocide narrative. The report diverges from the mandate of the Commission, yet again stressing their biased analysis. Since its inception, the modus operandi of the Commission was clear. Facts are malleable, sources are selective, and divisive terminology is employed to exacerbate and polarize the conflict. Since its inception, it has systematically dismissed Hamas's atrocities. Throughout the 72 pages of this paper that the COI presented, the COI promotes a narrative serving Hamas and its supporters in attempting to delegitimize and demonize the state of Israel. The report falsely accuses Israel of genocidal intent, an allegation it cannot substantiate, and even by its cherry-picked data.
That coming in just in the last few minutes, that response from Israel. And let's go to Israel now and speak to our Middle East correspondent, Yolan Nell, who's in Jerusalem. Yolan, as expected, a categorical rejection from Israel of this report.
That's right, and it's just coming at this key moment where Israel has been looking, increasingly isolated. We had the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu acknowledging that in a speech yesterday, saying that this was economically affecting the country. He said it would need to become more self-reliant as a result. Increasingly, what Israel is seeing from many of its allies is a threat of arms embargoes, threats of new sanctions. The Prime Minister said that it would have to start Israel producing more weapons in Israel. This has all caused a drop on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange this morning. But, in the face of all of that, we just had this important visit from the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He left the country a short time ago. He was seen giving lots of embraces to the Israeli Prime Minister during his trip here. And in the face of all this global condemnation of the expansion of Israel's operation in Gaza City because of the deep humanitarian consequences, the US does seem to be giving its backing for that, although there are some suggestions that it wants this to be over quickly. Israel sees Gaza City as being one of the last remaining strongholds of Hamas. And when he was here, Marco Rubio was really sort of casting some doubt on whether diplomacy can work in securing a ceasefire and hostage release deal. But then he spoke a bit differently as he was heading off to Qatar. He was on the tarmac when he said to journalists that there was still what he described as a very short window of time in which a deal could happen, saying that could be days, maybe a few weeks.
And Yolan, this report doesn't just name Israel as a state. It talks about 3 individuals, the President Isaac Herzog, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the former Defence Minister Yoav Gallant as individuals. What does it mean for those? Well,
already the Israeli Prime Minister is facing these charges at the International Criminal Court of war crimes, which he rejects, and Yoav Gallant too. What is new is to have Isaac Herzog also implicated here, the Israeli president, who generally is seen as having a kind of figurehead role in the country, but we have seen Isaac Herzog being an important diplomat. In just the past week, he was in the UK where he met the British Prime Minister. So we're yet to hear a comment from him, but Israel refutes all of these allegations. In general, what it says is that it is fighting a war which is about its own existence, that Hamas is a threat to its own existence. And that remains the case with what's happening in Gaza. We had the Israeli Defense Minister, Israel Katz, doubling down this morning. He said after what happened overnight that Gaza is on fire. He said the IDF strikes with an iron fist at the terrorist infrastructure. We will not relent or turn back until the mission is completed.
Yolande, thank you very much. Yolande Nell in Jerusalem. Well, let's speak to Sir Geoffrey Nice, who's a barrister and international law expert. Sir Geoffrey, thank you very much for waiting to talk to us. Your reaction, first of all, to the report's findings?
Well, this is an extremely important report, and it should be remembered that it's detailed. It's built on previous reporting by the Commission, which was detailed and evidence-based. And this final report draws conclusions from all the earlier evidence to establish, first of all, the genocidal intent of the State of Israel through its leaders, and the 4 ways in which that genocidal intent becomes criminal by 4 of the 5 ways in which such intent can become genocide itself. It's detailed. One of the problems that we're all facing is that there's no appetite in governments like ours, for example, to allow the voters, the people who put governments into power, to know detail of allegations and counter-allegations of this kind. So that, for example, not so very long ago when he was Foreign Secretary, David Lammy announced that it was not proved that genocide was happening. But he gave no detail of any kind, as far as I know. Nothing like the detail of this report. Now, there is no suggestion that Navi Pillay, an immensely impressive jurist with great experience, or her 2 colleagues, have any reason to be biased or prejudiced. What we need to consider is what they have looked at by way of evidence and the route by which they've reached their conclusions. And so what we are now waiting for is not the reaction of the Israeli government, which was entirely predictable, but for a government like our own to say either, yes, we've looked at this detail, it is persuasive, we accept that this is genocide, we will now act, or, and they can go no less far than this, to say, we respectfully disagree, and for these reasons. And if they do that, then your viewers will be able to hear, just as jurors would, who are quite capable in criminal cases in this country of trying genocide, your viewers will then be able to hear both sides in detail. But it doesn't suit countries to allow for detail, and we're likely to have a form of megaphone attack and counterattack based on this report in the next few hours and days.
And Sir Geoffrey, you talk about the detail in this report. You talk about the lead in this whole commission, Navi Pillay, and previous experience dealing in these very significant international matters of justice. There's a part of the report which talks about the aiding and assisting of what it describes as genocide. And I wonder what those implications are, regardless of the response of Israel, rejecting the report, for Israel's allies, for countries that may sell arms to Israel, for countries that do business with Israel. What are the implications, practically speaking?
Very serious, and they were highlighted not so very long ago by Albanese, the special rapporteur. If you're a country that provides or allows the provision of weaponry to a country that's committing or suspected of committing genocide, you become complicit in that. If you're the arms supplier, you become complicit in that, and you may be subject not just to the law of the International Criminal Court, which might identify you as somebody requiring an arrest warrant, but you're also subject to the law of your own land. In our country, we have laws about genocide and other war crimes. So the same report by the Special Rapporteur also identified many companies that would find themselves vulnerable to prosecution in their own jurisdiction elsewhere. For example, Caterpillar, for providing vehicles that serve a purpose of destroying the buildings in Gaza, but also many other countries, right down to social media, and even, as I recall, Airbnb, in providing places for people to stay to allow the genocide to happen.
So, Jeffrey,
That perhaps is a slightly unusual one.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. We are out of time and we must bring it to an end there. So, Jeffrey Nice, thank you very much for talking to us.
Very well.
International law expert and barrister. Now, in the next half hour, we're expecting a UN news conference in Geneva. We will bring you that live here on BBC News and throughout today. We're going to be examining that UN report, interviewing a range of people, including at 11 o'clock UK time, the special envoy in Israel's foreign ministry.